Deadly secret, small-town bartender's life changed forever when Navy SEALs came knocking at 3 a.m. The clock struck 3. In the sleepy town of Ravenswood, the only sound came from a restless wind rustling through the trees. But then, a hard knock echoed through the quiet street, shattering the stillness. Jake, the local bartender known for his charming smile and easy laugh, jolted awake. Who in the world would be at his door at this hour? His heart raced as he peered through the window, the moonlight casting eerie shadows across the porch. Outside stood silhouettes, their faces hidden in the darkness, but their stance screamed authority. Were they cops? No, these men wore tactical gear, the kind you only see in action movies or on TV. A chill ran down Jake's spine. The persistent knocking grew louder, more insistent, with each passing second. This was no ordinary visit. Something big was happening, something that didn't belong in his quiet town, and he had no clue what was coming. That he paused, every muscle in his body tensed. What if they were here for him? He tried to swallow the lump in his throat as thoughts raced through his mind. Had he done something wrong? Was someone in trouble? He wasn't a fighter, just a guy who poured drinks and listened to stories. But this wasn't about drinks anymore. Another knock, and the sound pierced through his thoughts like a bullet. Jake! A voice called out from the other side, deep and commanding. Panic surged through him. How did they know his name? Open up. We don't have much time. Just then, Jake felt a strange tug at his gut. He stumbled back from the door, his breath quickening. He had to know what these men wanted, but part of him screamed to run, to hide in the night like a shadow. He glanced at the clock again. Time was slipping away from him, and every second felt heavier than the last. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With a deep breath, Jake opened the door. The night air hit him like a cold slap. The men stood firm, their faces now illuminated by the porch light. Tension filled the air as their serious eyes locked onto his. We need your help, one man said, his jaw clenched tight. There's no time to explain everything now, but we believe you're the only one who can guide us. Jake's head spun. What could a bartender possibly do for a group of Navy SEALs? The gravity of his situation slammed into him, and he felt a rush of adrenaline. Was he in over his head? Then, without warning, a distant explosion lit up the night sky, shaking the ground beneath their feet. The men exchanged urgent glances, and fear flickered in their eyes. We need to move now. They turned, and just like that, Jake's ordinary life spun wildly out of control. The dark secrets of his past intertwined with forces he never knew existed. What the hell was happening? As he took a step forward, ready to plunge into the unknown, a new reality began to unfold, one filled with danger, loyalty, and a quest that could change everything. What had he gotten himself into? Jake's mind raced as he followed the team of SEALs into the darkness. The air buzzed with urgency, but he felt a sense of disbelief crashing over him like freezing water. Just hours ago, he was wiping down the bar at the Rosy Pint, listening to the same old stories from locals. Now, he was running into the night with men trained to face unimaginable horrors. Keep your head down and listen, the lead SEAL barked, his voice sharp and quick, slicing through Jake's thoughts. We're not safe here. We're being hunted. Hunted? Jake felt like he was in a movie, the reality of the moment too far-fetched. He glanced back at his home, the comforting glow of light now distant and surreal. A heavy dread settled in his chest. This was real, and it was happening to him. Who's after us? The word slipped out before he could think. The seal had a stone face, but Jake could see a flicker of concern in his eyes. That's not important right now. What is important is keeping you alive. As they hurried down the narrow alleyways of Ravenswood, shadows flickering against the old brick walls, Jake felt his legs growing heavier. They ducked behind a dumpster, crouched in the darkness. The lead seal extended his arm, signaling for silence. Jake's heart thudded loudly in his ears. Moments stretched into eternity, the calm before the storm. Then, the sound of tires screeching against pavement ripped through the air. Jake squinted in the direction of the noise, fear gripping him. "They're here," another seal whispered, harder than any cold wind. Within seconds, a black SUV came into view, headlights bathing the alley with blinding light. "Move!" shouted the lead seal, pulling Jake into the shadows, the cool metal of a weapon grazing against his wrist. They sprinted further, voices punctuating the night. Jake couldn't comprehend the gravity of the situation, each sound propelling him deeper into a nightmare from which he could scarcely wake. As they rounded a corner, the group slowed, and the lead seal gripped Jake's shoulder, his expression fierce. "You have to trust us. You know Ravenswood. We need a safe place to regroup." A memory sparked within Jake, the old bunker on the outskirts of town where he and his friends had gone to party as teens. It was a place cloaked in secrecy, long abandoned but still standing. "There's somewhere we can go," he whispered urgently. "Lead the way," the seal commanded, and with every ounce of uncertainty, Jake turned to dash toward that familiar place. With every step, however, a feeling of impending doom loomed larger. The weight of the secrets in his past pressed heavy on his shoulders. What if the life thought he left behind was catching up with him? Seconds felt like hours as they navigated the narrow streets, shadows looming larger than life. Jake glanced back, searching for signs of pursuit. The swell of fear mounted. "They're coming," he stated, the panic evident in his voice. "Stay focused." The seal nudged him forward, his eyes glinting with determination. "You need to show us that bunker now." As they sprinted ahead, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that some dark force was closing in. The very ground beneath them seemed alive, vibrating with a sense of imminent chaos. Just as they reached the edge of the woods, the darkness exploded with sound shouts, the crack of gunfire, and the shrill wail of sirens tearing through the night air. This was it. The line had been crossed, and there would be no turning back. The question lingered in the air as they plunged into the trees: who would survive this night? The shadows danced ominously, the world around them shifting in a chaotic grab for control. Jake gripped the seal's arm, desperation surging inside him. Did he have what it took to face whatever lay ahead? But before he could figure it out, the ground beneath them rumbled again, shaking the very foundations of his resolve. Where was the end of this madness? The seal turned to him, eyes narrowed. "No turning back now, Jake. You're involved whether you like it or not." And with those words ringing in his ears, the reality struck him. The answer awaited, buried within the secrets of Ravenswood. Would the truth set him free, or would it bind him tighter in a web of danger? The sound of an approaching chopper filled the air, and Jake felt the knot in his stomach tighten. How could everything change so quickly? He took a deep breath, steeling himself. The past was not ready to release him yet, but now he was in it deep. What else was hidden in the shadows of Ravenswood waiting to be uncovered? Jake's heart raced as they moved deeper into the woods, the tall trees towering overhead like sentinels of doom. The darkness felt thick and alive, pressing against him, challenging him to breathe. The thudding of his heart drowned out every other sound, and he clung to the seal's arm, feebly trying to assess their chances of survival. "Keep moving," the seal hissed, urging him forward as they ducked low, their silhouettes barely noticeable against the trunks around them. They pressed on until they reached the edge of a clearing, but the sudden stillness made Jake's skin prickle. The chopper overhead cast an eerie spotlight, sweeping across the ground, illuminating the undergrowth like a stage set for their final act. "Where's this bunker?" the lead seal demanded, his tone clipped, sending a jolt of urgency through Jake. "Just ahead. Over there," he pointed shakily, memories of carefree nights flooding back, the thrill of youthful rebellion, the reckless abandon that had brought him joy. But this wasn't a game anymore, it was a fight for his life. As they crept forward, Jake's mind fixated on a chilling thought. What if the very sins he tried to bury in the past were the reason they were in this mess? The SEAL's voice cut through his anxiety. "We can't waste time, Jake. We need cover." Every muscle in his body tensed as they stepped cautiously toward the clearing's edge. The old bunker loomed before them, half hidden beneath a tangle of vines and shadows. But before they could reach it, gunfire lit up the dark like fireworks, blinding flashes, deafening, chaotic. "Get down!" one of the SEALs growled, throwing Jake to the ground as bullets whizzed past. They huddled close to the earth, fear pooling heavily in Jake's gut. "Who are they?" he whispered, panic clawing at his throat. The reality of being hunted settled like a heavy weight on his chest. "Doesn't matter," the SEAL responded grimly. "All that matters is getting inside that bunker." With adrenaline surging, they sprinted toward their temporary sanctuary, the entrance gaping open like a mouth ready to swallow them whole. Just as they dove inside, the night erupted with more gunfire outside, echoing against the concrete walls. Jake's heart pounded louder than the chaos outside, and darkness engulfed them. He could barely see anything, the night smothering any glimmers of hope. "What's the plan?" he asked, his voice trembling. The lead SEAL took in the cramped space, his eyes narrowing. "We barricade ourselves here and figure out our next move. They'll be on us any second." Jake felt a wave of helplessness wash over him. He fumbled around, searching for anything he could use to fortify their position. Old crates, moldy furniture they wouldn't hold for long, but it was all they had. Just as he pulled an old metal door closed, a loud crash echoed from outside. "Here they come!" one of the SEALs shouted, weapons ready, tension squarely hanging in the air. Jake's pulse quickened, fear doubling as he sensed the danger hunting them down. The truth began to gnaw at him like a rat in the dark corners of his mind. He had stumbled into something far greater than he ever intended. "Jake!" the SEAL pointed to an old toolbox in the corner. "Get the flashlight. We need to see what we're up against." Fumbling in the near darkness, Jake's fingers brushed against cold metal. The flashlight flickered to life, illuminating the bunker's dank interior and casting wild shadows across the walls. And there, etched into the floor before them, was a symbol he recognized, a mark from his past, a reminder of secrets he had long tried to forget. The truth clawed its way back into the fore of his mind, unraveling the threads of a life he thought he'd left far behind. Just as he grasped the weight of it, a shout from the outside pierced through the air, snapping him back to the present. The SEALs shifted into combat positions, weapons raised, ready for the storm headed their way. "Whatever is happening, Jake, you need to be ready. We might just be the tip of the iceberg here," the lead SEAL warned, his voice low and intense. The shadows outside twisted deeper, and Jake felt the film of sweat bead on his forehead. What else lay buried in Ravenswood that would drag him back into the fray? And who were they really running from? As the pounding footsteps drew closer, one thought pierced the chaos. Jake had to prepare for the worst, because they were not alone in the dark, and in that moment, he knew the secrets would unravel, but would he be able to face what was revealed? The metallic scent of fear flooded the bunker as the impending chaos drew near. Jake's hands trembled as he held the flashlight, the beam slicing through the darkness like a knife. Each second felt like an eternity, the weight of his own past crashing against the weight of the present. He could hear hushed whispers outside, those footfalls drawing closer, a predator stalking its prey. Inside the bunker, the SEALs made frantic adjustments, reorganizing their positions as they huddled together. Jake caught sight of the graffiti-covered walls, the grim reminders of those who had been here before. "What the hell is going on?" he managed to whisper, the uncertainty twisting his stomach into knots. "Focus, Jake. We don't have time for questions," the lead SEAL barked, his voice sharp with urgency. "Where's the entrance to the maintenance room?" Jake gulped, swallowing hard. "It should be near over there." He darted toward a patch of wall he recognized, his heart racing as he mentally replayed the layout he memorized years ago. Every detail felt sedimentary, the fraying edges of his memories threatening to crumble away under pressure. Suddenly, the ground quaked beneath them. The sound of heavy boots echoed through the bunker, and Jake's heart plummeted. "They're breaching!" he gasped, adrenaline pouring through him like fire. "Now!" the SEAL commanded. "Get that door open!" Before the door was splintered with a thunderous crash. Fragments flew across the room, and each SEAL instinctively raised their weapons, tension etched onto their faces. Through the haze of dust and debris, men in tactical gear flooded into the bunker, their expressions cold and ruthless. Jake's instinct was to shrink back, fear wrapping around him like a vice. He was outnumbered, trapped in a cage of uncertain fate. But as the SEALs returned fire, a muted roar of gunshots erupted, echoing off the concrete until he thought he might lose his mind. He squeezed the flashlight tighter, the beam flickering as if mirroring his own panic. Suddenly, a figure darted to the side door, aiming straight for Jake. The man was fast, wearing an expression that screamed danger. "Move!" the SEAL roared, pushing Jake aside as they engaged with the intruder. Jake stumbled, hitting the ground hard as panic clawed at his throat. This was no game, and he felt it seep deeper into his bones. The past he'd tried to forget twisted like a knife inside him, each memory suddenly sharp. The marker on the bunker floor was just the beginning. "Jake!" the SEAL shouted, snapping him back into the moment. "We need to barricade this door. Grab something." His eyes darted around the small bunker, finally locking onto an old, rusted metal shelving unit. He lunged for it, dragging it across the floor as the SEALs continued to fire back at the encroaching threat. Heart pounding, he felt the heat of chaos swirling all around him. "Faster!" the lead SEAL shouted, his breath short as he backed away, dodging back into the shadows. Just as Jake wedged the shelving unit against the door, a loud thud knocked him off his feet. The door splintered, the impact vibrating through the walls. "They're in!" someone shouted, panic rising like a tide. Jake quickly scrambled back to his feet, the taste of desperation on his tongue. Shadows danced before him, menacing figures now spilling into the bunker. His breath caught in his throat as he realized these weren't just any assailants, they wore insignias that were all too familiar, symbols of a dark chapter of his life. The air thickened with tension. "They're here for you, Jake," the lead SEAL gasped, shooting at targets he couldn't see. "We need to disappear. Trust me." Dread gripped Jake, each second dragging with agonizing slowness as realization crashed over him. The secrets he thought were buried would now come clawing back. Did he truly have the strength to face them? Those past choices bled into the present, and with each second ticking away, he felt every consequence he'd ever ducked behind. Then it hit him like a thunderclap. Would he betray everything he'd fought to forget, or would he stand and confront the demons of his past? As the darkness drew nearer around him, all Jake knew was that the fight was far from over. And behind every door, every corner, his fate tangled with a dangerous legacy. With time waning, he braced himself as they charged, his mind screaming for answers to the questions forming in the shadows. He had to find a way out before they consumed him entirely. What awaited him beyond the turmoil? A reckoning he never saw coming. The noise clawed at Jake's senses, each gunshot a hammer pounding on the anvil of his confidence. He wanted so desperately to remain frozen, hidden in the corners of that wretched bunker, but he could feel the heat of the moment propelling him forward. "Follow me!" the lead SEAL shouted, his voice piercing through the chaos, cutting through the fog of fear that threatened to suffocate Jake. The SEAL pulled Jake roughly by the arm, dragging him toward the back of the maze-like bunker, the flickering flashlight revealing a series of narrow corridors. "Where are we going?" Jake gasped, trying to keep pace. "We can't stay here. They'll come for you. We have to find another exit." The urgency in the SEAL's voice lit a fire under Jake. He looked back, shadows were slipping through the door they had barricaded just moments before. The intruders were moving with lethal precision, Jake couldn't shake the icy grip of panic. They ducked into a cramped utility room, the smell of mildew and oil wrapping around them like a shroud. The lead SEAL pushed a heavy box in front of the door, then turned back to Jake, his expression hardening. "What the hell did you do, Jake? What do you mean?" Jake stammered, the accusation striking him like a slap. "They're here for a reason. You don't just get hunted without a reason." The SEAL's eyes bored into him, searching for answers. "I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't ask for any of this." Jake's voice tremored. Memories surged past dealings, faces forged in shadow. He had buried those truths deep, hoping they would never resurface. Before the SEAL could respond, an explosion rocked the bunker, sending debris raining down. The walls trembled. Dust choked Jake, and he sputtered, wiping his eyes. "Move, now!" The SEAL shouted, ushering Jake out of the room and deeper into the bunker. The ceiling began to buckle under the force of the blast. "Which way?" Jake yelled, his mind racing. "Left. Through the storage units." Jake didn't hesitate. In mere strides, he dashed toward a series of stacked crates. The dim light blinked erratically, the world feeling unstable and surreal. Every instinct screamed for him to run, evade, escape, but to where? As they reached the end of the hall, they stumbled upon a reinforced door. The SEAL quickly punched in a code on a keypad. The seconds ticked down as the door clicked ominously. Thunder echoed outside, more of his enemies closing in. "Get ready!" The SEAL shouted just as the door swung open, revealing more darkness beyond. "Wait!" Jake grabbed his arm. "What if it's a trap? It's better than letting them catch you. You have to trust me." The SEAL pushed Jake inside, the door slamming shut behind them, sealing them in a thin slice of quiet. Cold air washed over them, and Jake shivered, the adrenaline crashing as silence filled the space. They stood in another cramped room, but this one had a computer console flickering despondently in the corner, the screen smeared with dust. "What is this place?" Jake whispered, dread weaving through his veins. The SEAL didn't answer. His focus shifted to the computer. "I have to access the intel. We can find out what they want." Jake's heart raced again. This was a moment of reckoning. Would he betray his past or fight back? The darkness was not just outside, it lurked within the code of who he was. Suddenly, the lights flickered back on violently. The air was heavy with tension as the SEAL's fingers danced across the keyboard. "Come on," he muttered, as the door rattled ominously, a knock heralding an unwelcome arrival. "Jake, if I can just..." A loud bang interrupted him. The door quaked again, and Jake felt the world tilt. This was it. He took a deep breath, the stakes rising impossibly higher. What twisted legacy had followed him into this moment? The very questions that haunted him now pulled tighter like a noose. "Whoever they are, they're coming for you," the SEAL said, eyes wide with understanding. Jake pressed his palms against the console, determination flooding him as the stakes found clarity. "We're not done yet." The room echoed with a shift in the atmosphere, and Jake understood, the war wasn't on the other side of that door. It had already begun inside. As the door splintered under the thunderous force of their pursuers, a single thought pierced through the chaos: how far would he go to protect everything he loved from the shadows that haunted him? The door finally gave way, and as it crashed open, all darkness poured in. The questions churned in Jake's mind: would he run or fight? Those specters of his past were rising, ready for confrontation. And the reckoning was finally here. The door flew open, battered by the fury of the figures lurking outside. Shadows sprawled and twisted as the SEAL raised his weapon, ready to confront whatever dark intentions swept through the doorway. Jake's heart soared, a frenzied drum echoing in his ears. He grasped at fragments of resolve, desperation coiling tightly within him. The first figure lunged forward, silhouetted against the flickering overhead lights. Jake recognized the uniform black with a skull insignia. It sent a spike of fear coursing through him. The enemy had arrived, and they weren't here for pleasantries. Stay back. The seal yelled, his voice slicing through the chaos. He squeezed the trigger, the deafening roar of gunfire shattering the fragile silence. The intruder collapsed, their body a ragdoll against the floor, but more figures were flooding in behind. Desperation flared in Jake's chest, he had merely witnessed the beginning of the storm. No! Jake shouted, panic-laden and heavy. What do they want from me? Why me? The seal shot him a look brimming with urgency. No time for questions. We have to move. He grabbed Jake's arm, dragging him deeper into the room. Outside, chaos erupted, a back and forth of gunfire, muffled shouts, and the cacophony of bodies colliding. As they pushed past the computer console, Jake's eyes flitted toward the flickering screens. He caught glimpses of names and images, faces he tried to forget. None of it made sense, it felt like the fragments of a nightmare refusing to let go. I can't believe this, they know me. We need to get out before they find us. The seal said sternly, yanking Jake from his thoughts. Wait. What about that intel? Jake pointed toward the screens, where names of contacts listed next to their addresses flashed ominously. This was bigger than anything he had ever faced. Jake. Focus. The seal shot back, panic edging his tone. Trust me, whatever this is, it's not worth your life. But Jake felt a prickling unease creeping into his mind. This was his past crashing into the present like a runaway freight train. He could run, or he could stand and fight. The choice was slapping him in the face. No, wait. I can access the drive. They're tied to me. This could be the key to stopping them. Through the haze of screaming adrenaline, Jake rushed to the console. His fingers flew over the keyboard, recalling dormant skills he thought he'd buried long ago. Each keystroke echoed through the chamber, unearthing secrets from the shadows he had tried to forget. He pulled up a file labeled Project Shadow, and dread filled his gut. Get ready. The seal called, jabbing a finger toward the door. The heavy thud of approaching footsteps warned them that time was running out. Just give me a second. Jake shouted, his voice laced with fear. The seal rolled his eyes, a gesture of impatience, but beneath it lay a flicker of understanding. The file opened. The dim glow illuminated Jake's pale face, revealing a web of conspiracies, names of informants, and there was a series of transactions linked to a plot far more nefarious than he had foreseen. Holy, Jake gasped, heart racing. These people, they were stalking me, leveraging my past. I don't care what you did. Just get the information. The seal urged, his fervor punctuated by the rattling door. Before Jake could respond, the console blinked, and everything went dark. The screens went dead, plunging them into an unsettling silence. The air thickened with dread as the seal gripped his weapon more tightly. They know we're in here, he said, his eyes flaring with urgency. We need to move now. There's no backup coming for us. Jake couldn't shake the grip of panic tightening around him. It felt like his entire existence had led to this agonizing moment. What if we can turn the tables on them? The seal hesitated, glancing toward the door. The pounding grew louder, a grim reminder that shadows were closing in. What do you mean? We fight? He asked incredulously. Yes. If they're hunting me, then there's something in it for us. We can use their plans against them. We need a way to make this right. The seal stared at him as if weighing each option, but the truth crept in. The darkness outside was not waiting. Shadows danced along the walls as the door warped under another furious kick. Jake knew this was their moment, their only chance to regain control over the life that was so brutally ripped from him. And just as realization dawned, the door finally buckled, flying open, and the chaos came rushing in. Are you with me or not? Jake shouted, adrenaline surging through him once more. The seal met his gaze, resolve hardening. Then let us take the fight to them. With courage breathing life into their hearts, they charged forward into the onslaught, ready to confront whatever awaited them in the maelstrom of confrontation, but as they entered the fray, Jake's mind echoed with dread. What unseen forces would they unleash from within? And what shadows would they expose in their desperate bid for survival? The onslaught erupted like a thunderstorm. Jake and the seal lunged forward into a world of chaos, where bullets screamed past them, ricocheting against the walls and splintering debris. The flickering overhead lights illuminated the battleground momentarily, creating unsettling scenes of violence. Each step felt like a plunge into madness, the air thick with the metallic scent of gunpowder and the guttural sounds of chaos. "Take cover!" the seal shouted, yanking Jake behind a large metal structure just as another shot rang out. Jake's heart raced as he pressed against the cold surface, his mind whirring over the fragmented chaos. He caught his breath, but the dread curling in his gut wouldn't he let go. "What now?" Jake panted, trying to steady his shaking hands. His throat felt dry, and every heartbeat echoed in his ears like thunder. The seal's eyes darted, assessing the situation. "We need to get to that door," he pointed toward the back. "It's our best chance. Follow my lead." Jake nodded, forcing down the wave of fear that threatened to drown him. They risked peeking around the cover, their eyes widening at the horrifying sight. The black-clad assailants swarmed the room like roaches, coordinated and deadly, ready to sweep away any opposition. "Go!" the seal shouted, charging forward. Jake followed, adrenaline igniting his every move. They dashed between the remnants of furniture, ducking and weaving as gunfire erupted all around them. Just as they neared the door, Jake stumbled. His foot snagged on a broken piece of furniture, sending him crashing to the ground. Panic clawed at him. "Jake!" the seal yelled. "Get up!" Fear surged through him, but the seal's urgent voice reached deep inside, igniting something within. He pushed himself off the ground, practically flying to the door just as the bullets grazed his shoulder. A staccato burst of fire shattered the air as they reached the exit. The seal kicked it open, and they both plunged into a narrow hallway, filled with debris and echoing agonies. "Keep moving!" the seal barked, leading the way with stealthy precision. They barreled through the dim passage, desperation fueling their flight. Jake's mind raced. "If I access the drive," he gasped, desperate for clarity. "We can organize a counter." "Enough with that!" the seal snapped. "You survived this long. Focus on surviving right now." Jake swallowed hard. "They want me alive for a reason. If we can hold our ground right now, holding our ground means getting out of this place." They stumbled into a larger room, the remnants of old files and forgotten machines sprawling across the floor. A constant thundering of footfalls echoed behind them, sending shivers down Jake's spine. The seal pressed his ear against the wall, listening intently. "We don't have much time," he whispered. "I'm counting on your skills, Jake. Can you buy us at least a few seconds?" It was like a rush of ice water. The urgency of the situation bore down on him, sharp and merciless. He dove for a nearby desk, his fingers racing through old files, hunting for anything useful. His heart hammered this time. He wasn't a victim but a survivor. "Hurry!" the seal hissed, checking the corridor. Then, Jake found it a hidden panel. His breath caught as he pried it open, revealing a digital backup drive nestled inside. Heart racing, he ripped it out and quickly plugged it into a nearby computer. Almost there, he murmured, fingers flying over the keys, urgency surging within each stroke. The screen flickered back to life, displaying files, names all tied to the gnawing darkness that had haunted him, but just then, the door at the end of the hall blasted open, and a shadowed figure stepped through. Time slowed as recognition flickered in Jake's mind. "Jake!" the figure shouted, a sinister smile dancing on their lips, and in that moment of chaos, everything shifted. The threshold of Jake's life split again, revealing layers upon layers of secrets he thought were finally buried. "What have you done?" the seal growled, meeting Jake's eyes with a mixture of urgency and fear. Jake's throat went dry. I didn't. No. The figure stepped closer, their intentions cloaked in malice. You should have never come back. The seal raised his weapon, determination burning bright. Get behind me. But Jake froze, caught in the headlights of impending doom. How far would the web of conspiracy stretch? Who else was watching? As the room spiraled into chaos again, one question screamed in his mind: could he really trust anyone, even himself, to uncover the truth? A piercing shot rang out, sending shockwaves through the air, leaving Jake gasping. The fight was only just beginning. The bullet hit the ground beside Jake, and his world narrowed into focus. The seal's voice cut through the chaos: get down. He dove just in time, the ground just inches from his face, barely missing the onslaught aimed at them. The figure in the doorway laughed, a chilling sound that echoed ominously, bouncing off the peeling walls. Are you really going to let him take the fall, Jake? You didn't think I wouldn't find you, did you? Jake's mind struggled to process the taunting words. Who was this person? Each word was like a dagger, sharper than any bullet. The seal fired back, his face tense. Jake, focus. We need to move. Jake's heart raced. He could feel the weight of his past pinning him down. What do you know about me? He shouted, his voice trembling despite the defiance rising in him. He pushed back against the dread, fighting to regain control. Everything, the shadowed figure said, stepping further into the room, their face obscured by darkness. You think you can escape this? You think you can erase what you've done? As the seal fired again, the figure ducked, narrowly avoiding the shot, their eyes glinting with malice. Each movement was fluid, almost predatory. You're not the only one with skills, Jake, they said, voice low and dripping with confidence. Jake, we need an exit now. The seal shouted again, urgency heavy in the air. He darted sideways, trying to put himself between Jake and the figure, but there was nowhere. This was a trap, and they were caught. Jake's fingers hovered over the keys of the computer, frozen, a mix of instinct and fear paralyzing him. If I can just finish downloading, forget the drive, the seal snapped. It's a risk we can't take now. But it was too late. With a sudden clamor, the figure lunged forward, aiming for the computer. Jake's mind raced. What if they got their hands on it? The seal's weapon fired again, but the figure was already sidestepping, fluid as water, inching closer to Jake, whose heart felt like it would burst out of his chest. With a roar, the seal pushed past Jake, colliding with the figure. They went down in a tumble of limbs, a furious struggle echoing in the confined space. The seal grunted, trying to wrestle the figure's gun away, but Jake froze, caught in a web of overwhelming dread. Get off him! Jake shouted, an ember of rage igniting within him. He scrambled to intervene, grasping an old chair leg nearby. It was flimsy but sturdy enough for him to use as a weapon. The moment hung in the air, thick with tension and desperation. As he stepped closer, the seal managed to throw the figure off, scrambling to his feet, but with a quick whirl, the figure recovered. You think you can stop me, old friend? They hissed. Old friend? Jake echoed, confusion barreling into him. Memories surged, faces flickering like ghosts in his mind. It struck him then, a memory of betrayal, a reckoning. A shape loomed behind the chaos, like an old nightmare resurfacing. No, it can't be, he whispered, realization dawning. Time's up, Jake. Who do you trust? The figure smirked, and just like that, everything he believed began to unravel. The seal turned to him, a fierce look in his eyes. We can't waste any more time. We need to leave now. Yet Jake felt the weight of the revelation bear down. Could he trust the seal? Or was he playing into a larger game? As the door behind them slammed shut, blocking their escape, the next shot rang out, bouncing, echoing, threatening to shatter the fragile reality they were clinging to. The room seethed with unspoken tension, and suddenly, the chaos was louder than before. Time hung suspended, breathless and drawn tight, as the true battle began, not just for their lives, but for the truth buried deep beneath layers of deceit. Jake clenched the chair leg tighter. Would he choose the path of betrayal, or redemption. The choice was his, and every heartbeat felt like a countdown to an inevitable confrontation. He had to decide, and soon. Jake's gut twisted. The shot had rung out like a death knell, a reminder that time was a luxury they could no longer afford. He quickly glanced around the dim room, the flickering fluorescent light casting ghostly shadows on the walls, amplifying the danger creeping closer. The SEAL was back on his feet, eyes locked on the intruder, but Jake was still rooted in place, clinging to the flimsy chair leg as if it could shield him from the weight of his past. That face, the one shrouded in darkness, now a shadowy silhouette against the wall, swirled in his thoughts, both familiar and alien, an unsettling puzzle he desperately needed to solve. Jake's mind raced, grappling with fragmentary memories that festered just out of reach. What had he done? And why was this terrifying figure intent on dragging him back into the past? Jake! The SEAL snapped, breaking through his reverie. Move! We can't fight here. He motioned toward the window behind them, barely standing but still an option. But a rumbling laugh from the figure cut through the tension. Oh, you think you can escape? You have no idea what's coming for you. Ignoring the figure for a moment, Jake turned toward the SEAL, desperation written across his face. Who is that? Why are they after me? The chair leg trembled in his grip, a feeble defense against a storm he hadn't expected. I'll explain later. Just trust me. The SEAL's voice rang with urgency, no time for hesitation. The figure threw an object at the SEAL. It crashed against the wall, scattering shards of glass across the floor. Stop trying to protect him. He's made his choices. The SEAL didn't flinch, instead, he moved forward, taking steady aim. Get ready to run. On three. Jake could scarcely breathe. Everything felt so surreal, yet so painfully real. The walls felt as if they were closing in, his heart thudded loudly in his ears. 3. The SEAL shouted. Jake hurled himself toward the window, the chair leg raised high, ready to smash through the remaining glass, his pulse racing. The figure darted to intercept him, but the SEAL moved faster, tackling the figure again, a wild frenzy of arms and legs. With a single violent thrust, Jake broke through the window, glass splintering around him like dangerous rain. He barely registered the pain as shards sliced across his arms. The cool night air hit him like a wave, sharp and invigorating. He landed on the grass below, rolling to absorb the impact. Jake, now! The SEAL's voice flew through the night like a beacon. Jake scrambled to his feet, legs propelled by raw adrenaline. He glanced back at the window. Glass and shadows loomed like hunting wolves. But the SEAL was still inside, a fierce struggle unfolding against the backdrop of chaos. Come on! The SEAL's words cracked through the night air like a whip, urgency behind them. Jake hesitated for a heartbeat. Every instinct screamed for him to run, to save himself, but then he remembered the SEAL's words, the stake of trust hanging between them. He took a measured breath, fury igniting a fire in his veins. Not without you! He yelled, sprinting back, adrenaline driving him to hoist himself back through the broken glass, feeling the rush of danger all around him. Just then, another shot rang out, thudding into the wall beside him, narrowly missing. No! Jake cried out, the world blurring into a desperate haze. Time slowed, reality hanging by a thread as everything attached to his destiny felt precarious. With a final push, he plunged back inside, heart racing faster than logic. He had to break the binding chains of the past. He had to reach the SEAL, but could they take down this specter of betrayal together? But before Jake could regain his footing, the figure turned, eyes glinting evil in the dim light, cornering them both. What's it gonna be, Jake? Your past or his life? The weight of that choice gripped him tight. He could feel the doom closing in, and desperation clawed at every fiber of his being. Their fate hung in the balance, and as the figure lunged for them, the true test of loyalty had begun. Would Jake outrun the long shadow of his past? Or would fear dictate his fate? The answer felt like a ticking time bomb, ready to explode. Adrenaline surged through Jake's veins as shadows collided with the reality he had been avoiding. The struggle played out like a twisted movie, the tension thick enough to slice with a knife. Every decision felt like a lifeline, every second counted. Distract him. The SEAL called, his eyes locked on the figure that haunted Jake's past. Too familiar. Too dangerous. Jake's heart raced as he snatched a broken piece of furniture, gripping it tightly. "Why are you doing this?" he shouted, anger mixing with fear, forcing him to take a stand. The figure's smirk twisted into something malevolent. "You think you can escape your own mind? You're in over your head, Jake." That dagger of a statement plunged deeper, forcing memories and regrets to rise, each one more painful than the last. "Stand back." The SEAL's commanding voice snapped him back to the present. The air crackled as the SEAL opened fire, the sound echoing like thunder in the bleak room. Bullets ricocheted, and Jake felt every heartbeat reverberate against the walls. Jake acted instinctively, darting toward a pile of debris, tossing a chair toward the figure in defiance. "I won't let you take him," he shouted, fury igniting his resolve. As the figure dodged, Jake spotted an old fire extinguisher nearby. In a moment of desperate clarity, he seized it, raising it like a shield. "Get ready." The SEAL barked, eyes fixed on the figure, preparing to engage again. Jake slammed the extinguisher against the ground, releasing a cloud of foam and confusion that hung heavy in the air. It blinded the figure, giving them precious seconds. "Go!" Jake shouted, adrenaline guiding his every move. They rushed toward the window again, the frigid air beckoning, a reminder of the life outside, the normalcy he once craved. "Jake!" the SEAL urged, stepping to protect him from any impending threats. "We can't hold them off for much longer." The fear in his voice lit a fire beneath Jake. "Let us finish this." The SEAL lunged at the figure, their bodies colliding amid a cloud of chaos. A whirlwind of fists flew, the sounds of struggle punctuating the air, and in that moment, clarity hit Jake like a freight train. "I won't back down," he declared, stepping forward, raising the chair leg as a weapon. He rushed toward the figure, ready to confront whatever twisted past lay before him. The figure turned, surprise flickering across their face, then anger. "You're making a grave mistake. You can never erase what has been done." They shouted, eyes burning with intensity, but Jake felt something shift inside him. "Maybe, but I can stop you from controlling my life." With that, Jake swung the chair leg with every ounce of strength he had left. It collided with the figure, staggering them back just enough for the SEAL to regain control of the situation. In the blur of movement, the SEAL finally managed to pin the figure down. "Tell him. What does this have to do with him?" he demanded, breathing heavy, determination lacing his voice. "Jake, it goes deeper than you know. The project, it was designed to leverage people like you." The figure struggled, venom in their voice. "But you're just a pawn, a means to an end." They spat out those words like venom, the heinous weight of truth looming above them all. Jake's heart raced, but he stood firm. "No one uses me again. This time, I choose." The SEAL tightened his grip. "We won't let this continue," he said. "You'll answer for this." Just then, outside sirens wailed, a beacon signaling help, the tide of fate shifting once more. Jake felt hope surge through him, his past unfurling like a fragile leaf. "Time's up." The SEAL shouted, adrenaline rushing. "We're going out there. Together." The figure twisted, trying to break free. "You can't win. They'll come for you." But Jake refused to cower, refusing to allow those shadows to reclaim him. "Whatever it takes to make it right," he shot back, voice trembling but resolute. They charged toward the window, launching themselves into the night. "We're not hiding anymore." As they burst into the open air, the cool breeze hit them like a tidal wave of liberation, sirens wailing, lights flashing all around. Hope surged, pushing away the darkness that threatened to consume him. Together, they faced the oncoming chaos, Jake's heart pounding not in fear, but in newfound strength. He would confront his past and emerge victorious. With the seal at his side, they prepared for whatever awaited them. No longer the bartender of sleepy Ravenswood, Jake was ready to be its guardian, embracing the fight ahead to reclaim his life from beneath the shadows, a life filled with purpose, justice, and, finally, freedom. Jake took a breath, feeling the weight lift. "Let us finish this." And just like that, with trust and courage leading the way, they stepped into the dawn of a new future, leaving the past behind for good. Now, listen up. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that are coming your way. And, smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Trust me, it makes a huge difference. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this explosive conclusion. I want to hear from you. Finally, don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support shapes this community, and I can't thank you enough for being part of this journey.